Welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is Tips and Tools for the End of Year Success, and we want to welcome you and thank you for being here with us today. We will be having our Eduphoria Strive and Aware experts share some of their top tips for end of the year to end the year successfully so that you can start next year on a strong note. So first, I would like to introduce our team of who's here today. So I'm Marie Hayes, and I'm an account manager joined by my partner, Brittany Douglas. Our presenters will be Jason Martinez, Allison Ross, and Armando Sierra, who are all from our implementation team, and they're going to be sharing information about Strive and Aware. So our agenda and what we will be talking through today, we're going to begin with our experts sharing their top tips. And in this time, as you also noted in our emails, they will also be sharing with you some checklists to kind of keep you on track on staying on top of these tasks and remembering which things need to go where. So those will be shared as well. We will also have a quick Aware Premium update and then close with summer training preparation and support opportunities that we can help provide you. Keep in mind, this presentation will be recorded and all recordings will be delivered to you via link within 24 hours after this. And participation is encouraged. So please use that Q&A window and we'll be answering questions throughout. We will also be sharing a link at the end on ways that you can connect with your account manager. So anything that you hear today, if you need extra information or want to get involved a little deeper on one of the topics, we will give you the opportunity to kind of click a form and just give us your name and email address so that we can connect with you at the end. So with that being said, I am going to kick things off by turning it over to Jason Martinez to start our end of the year success tips and tricks.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Thanks, everybody. We're going to start with system management. And the main thing we're going to talk about system management is starting with creating a new calendar. So if you could use the chat function, I need a volunteer. If you have not set your calendar up at your district for the coming school year, 24-25, if you would like to chat, Bernie, perfect. All right, so that Bernie's first, and so I'm actually going to go, if you don't mind, I'm going to use Bernie as an example. So just give me 1 second, and I'm going to get in, and we're gonna make a calendar together, so that Bernie's going to be done, or mostly done, with the exception of maybe making adjustments here and there. But we're going to make a new calendar, which is a great example of keeping people from getting confused. The calendar can be confusing from time to time. Creating it, there's been some people that get cycles and terms and stuff messed up. I'm going to go ahead and somebody needs to give me access to share. So I don't know if I need to. So Armando may have to make me co-host or something because I'm trying to share. Well, unless you want to share and go to Bernie, but if all right, there you go. All right, I can do it now. All right, here we go. Perfect. All right, so we're going to be in management. So you have to be a system administrator in order to go to management. I'm assuming most of you, if not all of you, are. I'm actually just going to go to Bernie ISD, and there you go. So we ought to be able to find your calendar. Perfect. So I've got the calendar here, and so we'll just kind of hop back and forth from that, and this will be a good kind of getting you ready to go. So if you guys are following along and you want to do this kind of on your second screen, if you're lucky enough to have 2 monitors, or just take notes, we're going to go ahead and create a calendar. So I'm going to go to school calendars here, and you'll see we have 23-24. You can kind of reflect on back, what kind of calendar you had previous years. That might help you. But I'm going to kind of explain all of that and hopefully, once again, make things really clear so that there's no confusion going into next year. So I'm going to just create a new calendar down here at the bottom, new instructional calendar. And so all we've got to have, essentially, is a start date and an end date. Now, granted, you probably want to make your calendar match, and I'll talk about that in a second. But first, it just starts with a start and end date, and it's going to bring up this month's calendar, but obviously we're going to be starting in August. So you'll see first day for students. So first instructional day for Bernie will be August 12th. And so I'm going to go in and pick August 12th as my begin date. You see it just selects it. I'll click next. It automatically switches over to May because it knows we're probably going to be in May. So if we scroll down here, May, it looks like the 22nd, possibly. May 22nd, last day for students, right here. Yep, May 22nd. So we're going to pick May 22nd for Bernie. So that'll be the begin date and end date. So that's essentially all you have to have on the instructional calendar. We'll talk more about the instructional calendar in just a minute. But it brings you to this step where it says create reporting calendars. And this is where a lot of confusion comes from. And I'll be honest, this confusion comes from us. We're kind of creating the confusion. And so I want to clear that up for everybody right now. You see terms and you see the word cycles. I want everybody to ignore cycles. Cycles are your 6 weeks or 9 weeks. We call those grading periods in education. And yes, they're very important to you locally, but grading periods have no impact whatsoever on Eduphoria and Aware. Zero. Now, they may have impact because you're doing grades on tests and stuff like that, but from a functionality standpoint, how does Aware or the calendar, how does it work? Cycles mean nothing, okay? They mean nothing, with one very critical exception. If you do 9 weeks cycles, but those cycles are also your terms, meaning you do quads, not semesters or trimesters, then those are actually terms. So when you see the word term, that's what's critical to us. Term for most districts out there is semester. There's a first semester, usually ends sometime around Christmas. Second semester goes for the whole spring semester. And so there's 2 parts of the year. Some districts out there do trimesters. We have many districts out there do quads as well. But terms are what is important. Well, you'll see that if your district does quads, like 4 terms, that's not even an option here. And the cycles contribute to confusion. So this is going to be my recommendation for you going forward. I don't care what you pick here, because some districts actually have, well, they're like, which one do I pick? Because our elementaries do 6-week cycles, but our secondaries do 9-week. Do I need to have 2? Well, not if both of your sets of campuses only do semesters. It really doesn't matter what cycle. So I'm going to tell you right now, just pick whichever one, and I'm going to tell you to delete it, and we're just going to make one from this interface. So let me go ahead and do that right now, since we're talking about that. You'll see that that 2-term 6-week cycle one is down here. And the reason why I tell you that I don't want you to do this is because look at all these sets of dates. And all of these sets of dates, and you might be saying, well, I've done this forever. If you've done it forever, I understand, but I'm just trying to make it easier to where you don't have to click as many times, select as many dates. You don't have to do this, because even with this, even if this is how y'all do it, 2 semesters, 6-week cycles, the only 4 dates that matter are the beginning of the first semester, the end of the second semester. These dates really have no impact whatsoever. So why even mess with having to fix that many dates? So I'm going to say, let's go ahead and just delete this reporting calendar. And so I'm going to click back on the instructional calendar, and you see up there it says new reporting calendar. And I'm just going to call it like 2-term or 3-term. Once again, term for us is like semester, or trimester, quad. You can look back at whatever you've done before in your previous calendars, and unless you've changed something with your student management system or whatever, this is going to work for you. So I'm going to do 2 terms. So there's 2 terms: first semester, second term, second semester. Now, how many cycles? Once again, cycles don't matter. So to make this as easy for you to understand, I'm going to say just put ones right there. 1 cycle per term. And I'm going to show you why that's what we want to do. Let me refresh. And so you'll see here. Now, once again, since the word cycle doesn't matter, think of this as first semester, second semester. All that matters is the begin date of the first semester and the end date of the first semester. Now, whereas you want the instructional calendar, once again, this is the instructional calendar. I want that date to match my calendar. In this case, for Bernie, it was August 12th, the beginning of the school year. May 22nd was the end of the school year. I want that to match. And I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about more in the instruction calendar in a minute. But since we're focusing on the reporting calendar now, the reporting calendar is your roll-up calendar. So y'all all do a student management system roll-up. Usually happens in July. Could be Skyward, could be eSchool, could be Ascender, could be Tyler. There's all different student management systems that are being used by districts across the state of Texas. And whatever one you have, your PEMS department does that roll up end of June, first part of July, middle of July. Sometime they roll up to the next school year. When that happens, whatever date that is, your choice is when does that happen in Aware. So anytime after, and by the way, the reporting calendar only impacts Aware. When do our students show up in their new grade, at their new campus? When do we move them from fourth grade to fifth grade? That is happening in your student management system. The date, any date after it happens in your student management system, it could happen in Aware. So this date usually doesn't, and in my mind, probably shouldn't be August 12th for Bernie, because we're going to be doing some training, new teacher training and professional development. And do we want teachers to be able to see the students' data that they're going to have? Do we want principals to be able to see, those students that were in elementary that are now in middle school? So let's just pick a date, and Bernie, and I'm going to tell this for everybody, I'm going to pick August 1st for now. You can always change this date up until that date, right? Like I can change it. So if I think it's Janie, maybe, whoever is from Bernie, I'm setting it as August 1st. Great. I'm setting it as August 1st, but you can make that date July 17th. You can make that day August 13th. I mean, you can do whatever you want, and you can do it up until that point. But this is the roll-up date for Aware. When does Aware's new rosters take into account? Now, that makes some assumptions that your export are happening and all that stuff, but unless you tell it to stop, this will be the trigger for when that new date happens. Now, the main key is the end date of the first semester and the begin date of the second semester should not have any gaps whatsoever, 0 gap. So no days of gap, because there has to be an active term when students are in for teachers or principals to be able to see data. So obviously this is probably going to be, I can look back at their calendar. So this is probably going to be, I can look in December here. So December 20th, it looks like at the end of the first semester for them. So December 20th, okay? And so by assumption, I would think I should put December 20th as this date. And then they're probably not going to go back to school till sometime in January. Students' first day back in school, maybe January 8th or something like that, 9th. So our assumption would be that we would make this the 20th, and then this would be January 8th or 9th or whatever that would be. That is the wrong assumption. Please do not do that. Because if anyone were to log in and try to look at data in Aware, especially teachers during this gap, they wouldn't be able to see anything. You have to be in a current term in order to see data for students. And so I always ask people when I'm talking to them about this, guiding them, I'm saying, typically what people do, and this typical doesn't mean it has to be for you. Y'all's just your district, you decide for your district. Typically what I ask people is, when are grades due for the first semester? And if they have grades due all the way up until January 7th, then they need to be able to see their midterm exams, especially for those classes that were only semester classes or whatever. And so sometimes there's like, make this the 7th, then make this the 8th. Once again, the only main thing is there does not need to be a gap. If this is January 1st, New Year's, then make this January 2nd. If this is December 31st, then make this January 1st. Don't have a gap. Y'all can determine for yourself, when do we go from being term 1, semester 1, to being semester 2? Y'all make that determination, just like we're making the determination for the start date. And then obviously the end date, we're typically going to put a couple of weeks past the end of school. The only caveat to the end date is twofold. One, the last roster will stay the last roster until we roll up to next year anyway. So if somebody were to log in June 15th, it's going to kind of be frozen in time. The only kind of change that could occur with that is if we're going to be using Aware for summer school. And some of you just went, what? Aware for summer school? We didn't even know that was even a possibility. Do we want to do that or not? You're about to have an opportunity to reach out to these great account managers that are here for you, Brittany and Marie. And so if you're interested in investigating whether or not we should or could or would or want to use Aware for our summer school, we want to assess students in summer school with Aware. If you want to do that, reach out and we can kind of help guide you with that. Oh, great catch. Yeah, that doesn't need to be 24. It actually probably wouldn't let me do that. But great, good catch there. All right, so this would be an example there of a reporting calendar. If all of your schools do the same thing, this is all that is required from a reporting calendar. But one additional thing on reporting calendars, let's say that our schedules for our elementaries are not going to be built by August 1st. They're not going to be built till like August 10th. But I want our high schools and middle schools to be able to see their students. But I don't want our elementaries logging in and teachers freaking out because we have 51 students in their class because we're not really, we're just rearranging stuff. You could have additional reporting calendars, like I could call one 2-term elementary, 2-term secondary or something. And then under your managed schools, you can actually point each school to a different calendar so that you could actually jog, you can, kind of vary which campus starts which roster at what time. And so that is another option as well with reporting calendars. Once again, don't have a whole lot of time here today to take you through all the different combinations of possibilities, but you need to have a calendar created for next year. And if you need guidance or help, please reach out on the reporting calendar. Once again, reporting calendar only affects Aware. All right, back to the instructional calendar, which I created the first date and end date, but that's all I did. And I went over to reporting calendar. The instructional calendar, all that has to have is a begin and end date. Well, Bernie does not have 204 instructional days. They wouldn't have good teacher retention if that's how many days were on their teachers' contracts. And so what's not counted there are like holidays. So I'm sure, Bernie, you go up here to September 2nd, it's going to be Labor Day, that's going to be a holiday, and you see these other days off they have. And so you can come up here and click on each day that's going to be a non-instructional day and update that to a different type of day. And you'll see my 204 went down to 203. So I would do that for Thanksgiving and Christmas and spring break and all those other things we're going to be off. And then it would match your calendar exactly. If you're using Forethought or any of, or really most of our logistical apps like Help Desk or Formspace, those kinds of things, you definitely want this to match because it affects statistics and 100th day of school kind of planning and those kinds of things. So it'll only take a few minutes for you to get the calendar matching exactly. But please, if you have questions, reach out. Okay, that is the calendar. Yeah, there you go. If you need any additional support, there you go. You can click that link. All right, I'm going to switch it back, stop sharing. Armando, I think you can take back on the sharing of the presentation. All right. Continuing user management. So always a good idea to do an audit of our users. Hopefully, a lot of your districts are using some kind of directory services. The second bullet there, and you see that on the left side there, where you have Active Directory, your technology department, whatever is your user management with your technology is doing. Hopefully, that is managing your users. It creates and deletes your users automatically. Can do campus assignment automatically. But I know especially some of you smaller districts that may not be the case. And so if you have manual user management going on, obviously if people are leaving your district, we want to make sure that they don't have any access anymore. We want to delete their account, remove their roles and rights. And so end of year thing, always a good idea just to do an audit of access. Obviously we're using Aware has a lot of sensitive materials for students. If you're using Strive, you've got evaluation kind of stuff in there. And so definitely want to do a roles and rights kind of report. You see that down at the bottom to see who has access to what, add and delete users. And then there's one additional thing right there. If you click, and I know you can't see this because this is just a picture, but if you click manage users and you click manage user profiles, which Armando's doing a good job of showing his little cursor there, there'll be a button at the top that comes up that says reset profile check. Now, this is not mandatory. This is not mandatory. So if you click the reset profile check button, it will require all users to go through the profile the next time they log in. A lot of districts do this in the summer because we want them to pick on their campus that they changed. Maybe they changed their teaching assignment. It makes them reset or possibly re-put in their security question for digital signatures and Strive and FormSpace. So when you go through the profile, you set those things. Well, if people have already logged in once, which all of your current users have, they can manually go do that, but they're not necessarily prompted to do that. That reset profile check will prompt them to go in. They will have to go through that profile update, and then it only happens once. They only have to do it once, but every user will have to do that.
Jason, we have 2 questions in the chat. The first one, in a 4-day instructional week, should non-working Fridays be a weekend or a holiday?
Yeah, so just those are different options, but essentially it's just a non-instructional day. So any of those other 3 things relatively are the same, except for, so like weekends and student, if you're using help desk, for example, and you're running statistics on how long a work order is open, how long has it's been assigned. So weekends are not counted, holidays are not counted, but student holidays are, because staff are still there those days. So that would be the only difference, would be statistics on like work orders. Other than that, it's just instructional, and any of the 3 others are non-instructional. So for you, if it's a 4-day week, students aren't there on Fridays, but is our staff there, or at least some of our staff? And so you may want to make those student holidays so that if you're using like help desk for stuff, those work orders are still going to be worked on Fridays, and so that would be the only difference there.
Okay, and it looks like we have one more about if a district's not currently set up for directory services for their staff, are there help desk articles?
There's a whole help desk section, and I'm sure somebody's probably looking that up right now to put that in the chat. But yes, there's a whole section on documentation for the different kinds of directory services. There are multiple different options. There's sync, there's remote authentication, there's all different kinds of things. There you go. Allison took care of that for us, and so there's a whole section on directory services. So yeah, your technology department, if you have questions, they can reach out to some of our folks and help guide. And there shouldn't be any interruption. So if you're using manual roles and rights, I'm sorry, manual user management right now, they'll make it to where you can flop over to change over to directory services, and you could even do that during the year. But obviously, in the summer would be great if you could do it then. Yeah, you can. So those questions come in, class link stuff. Yeah, that's part of that. You can look into that authentication kind of things. Those options are in there as well. All right, if you continue to have questions, unfortunately, we only have an hour, and I've already talked too long on system management, so I'm gonna have to be quick on Aware. So if you have continued questions, please just put those in the chat or email them in to support@eduphoria.net, and we'll be glad to get back with you when we can. All right, first and foremost, the Back to Classic button will no longer be available for anyone after June 30th. Hopefully, most of you, if not all of you, are not clicking that button anymore. And if you would like some training on that, we definitely can help you be more comfortable, and probably wish that you went to the new, or were using the new Aware faster, because it is better, faster, more efficient, less clicks. But yes, good reminder there that got to get comfortable with it pretty soon, because it is going to be gone after June 30th. All right, so we have a preparation checklist. This presentation is going to be shared with all of you, if it hadn't already, this link to this presentation. And that is a hot link at the bottom where it says Aware Preparation Checklist down there. There is also going to be a link to the Strive one as well. And so this will bring up a checklist of kind of things we have to get done, or we want to get done, preparing for the next year. So that you can kind of have a list that you can just go down, knock things off, and that way you know everything's done. We're going to talk about a few of those things right now here that we've got your time. So first, it says strongly recommended. If I were at your district, I would tell you it is required. All campus level and district level tests should be archived before the next school year, before we start building tests for the next school year, because you don't want to keep a test active Because if you gave a test this year, left it active, and just gave that test again next year, that data is going to be combined and messy. And it would be tied to the wrong school year. You can copy archived assessments. So the right process would be, let's archive all of our assessments. And then if we're going to give the same 5th grade lab safety test in the first unit of science, well, we just copy last year's lab safety test. We don't have to make it again. You're going to do this most likely with our mass test editor. And when you click on the mass test editor, on the sprocket next to assessments and New Aware, it's going to bring you to this interface. And then you're going to search for your test. It comes up blank. And a lot of times people think, I don't know what I'm doing here, but you have to use the search bar you see up there where it says active. And a good way to start is let's just type in and see how many tests are active. All tests that have data that are either in pending or active state need to be archived. And as you see in the second bullet, you can manipulate or archive up to 130 tests at a time. So some of you are going to have a couple of hundred tests. Some of you might have a couple of thousand tests. Some of you that if you hadn't archived in the last 4 or 5 or 6 or 12 years, you might have tens of thousands of tests. If you find that you've got a whole big number of tests, if you want to reach out to us and maybe contract with us to kind of help you do that faster, that is an option as well. But you definitely need to archive your assessments. You cannot, the last bullet there, you cannot archive any assessment that has an end date past the date that you're trying to do it. Well, we're still in the school year, so there probably are some assessments that have an end date, maybe your last day of school. So you may want to wait to archive until school is over, or you could just archive all of the assessments for maybe for the first semester right now, and then you get ready to archive the other ones later. But all school level and district level assessments need to be archived at the end of the school year. Next. You also want to clean up any data views. So any shared data views, if it's a district shared view or a district quick view, you want to make sure that those are still applicable and you're going to use them from year to year. It can be a mess if you've been using Aware for many years and people have been creating things and sharing things, and that's good. It's a good process to use Aware to that fullest capability. But if we have a lot of things that are in the way of our dropdown, a lot of things that are in our data views bank that are just junk and we're not using them anymore, then they're just getting in the way of the real things, the active, pertinent things that we want to be using. And so always a good idea just to kind of audit the bank of things. Who created them? Are they still being used? Is this still current information? If it's not, then maybe we just update it, we edit it and update it, or we just delete it. Once again, we kind of offer an audit of Aware. And we can help you go in and kind of look at those things, but you can do it yourself. And that's always obviously something that we encourage as part of like a normal yearly thing during the summer when school is out. And then lastly, next slide, we're going to do the same thing with monitor groups. Monitor groups can get out of hand. And typically monitor groups are only applicable to 1 year. That is not a 100% case. There are sometimes monitor groups that are lasting more than 1 year. But most of the time when people create monitor groups, they're only applicable for that school year. And people like to create them and they always forget to delete them or update them. And so down at the bottom left, monitor groups is a button of its own. You can go in there, and thankfully now in the new navigation, you can multi-select. You used to have to delete one at a time. You can now multi-select. I think a lot of times districts will send out a district-wide email and say, okay, if you've got a monitor group, please go back, and you want to keep it, please go back and rename it 24, 25 or something that's going to, so that I know when I'm looking at it, that it's something I don't want to delete. Otherwise, on this date, I'm going in and I'm deleting them all as the Eduphorian because we want to keep things clean. And so that's the case. If you don't know that you now can have personal level monitor groups, that is now an option. There are district, school, and personal level monitor groups. So used to only be district and campus level, and those are the ones that obviously need to be updated or deleted. But personal monitor groups is now a thing too.
Okay, Jason, we have a question in the chat. If tests are being built for the 24-25 school year now, can you mass archive without affecting them if
Yeah,
they're
so
in the
yeah,
future?
yeah, absolutely. So when you go to when you Armando, if you want to, I can show if I need to show. Oh, there you go. So he's got it. So perfect. So yeah, you're going to select all with the checkbox at the top there, and then they're going to be in order by date. And so down at the bottom, you see those number of pages. So you would just go like to the last page, and on the last page, that would going to be where your newest tests are, and you would just uncheck the boxes. And so you're obviously not going to archive next year's test 100%. And so you would just select all and then uncheck the ones that have dates that affect next school year. Like I said, even if you tried to archive them, it wouldn't let you archive them because their end date was after today's date. And so you're going to have to uncheck them to be able to archive any of them anyway. And Kathy, good question there. You cannot build tests for the 24-25 school year until you have a 24-25 calendar. They're not gonna have anywhere to go, and so you need to go ahead and build that calendar like we did earlier. So kind of links into some of the things. Any other questions about Aware or system management role? I mean, like users or calendars, anything like that. So I just took 2 minutes past my allotted half of an hour, so that's not bad.
All right, I am ready to go, and we got this. All right, hey y'all, let's talk about Strive. So first off, let me go ahead and give you your one-stop shop for the start and end of school. This is from our online help guide. When you go into our online help guide, you click on start and end of school, and you will see this beautiful directory of curated articles that will walk you through your end of the year procedures for Strive, whether you're an administrator, you're a T-test appraiser, principal, or your teachers or staff. Just gives you all kinds of great, useful tips and tricks to be able to wrap up your year efficiently and effectively. So I do encourage you, if you're like, what do I do? Go into that online help guide. It's absolutely wonderful. It's got great resources in there. We also have this Strive preparation checklist that's going to actually be sent out with the slides. And you'll see that link here on the page. But this is going to give you that really nice view, especially if you're that district administrator that runs Eduphoria for your district. This is going to give you a nice way to kind of like think through who's going to attend the meetings that I need to accomplish these tasks, and when do we want to have them accomplished by. So this is going to be a really great checklist for you to run through and go, we're wrapping up the year. It also has built-in help articles for you to look at. So if you're like, I wonder about what they're talking about here, click on that click on the links that are embedded into the checklist, and you can get all of those great recommendations, as well as things you're like, oh yeah, I've done this a million times, but I promise you there's districts that are like, I know I've done this a million times, but I just want to go through it one more time. And absolutely, this checklist is going to get you everything you need and help you think through all of those sequences to make sure you roll up this year really well, get everything prepped for archive, and roll into the next year. So since we talked a little bit about it, let's touch on archiving. So here, we just want to remind y'all, make sure you have all processes are complete. Whenever we're talking about those OHG articles, especially on the one that says end of year principals and appraisers, it gives you a really nice list of reports you can run or things you can check that show you, okay, so I have some unsigned documents out there, or have my T-test appraisers gone through and approved all the goals from this year. So those reports kind of give you those like loose ends that need to be tied off before you do the archiving process. You want to make sure you run before any changes are made for the upcoming year. And also please, please, please follow the directions, just because you do have to go into system management, move the dates. Remember, we open up the dates to make sure we get all of those goals that were created when your teachers came back. So sometimes those teachers start doing their goal setting at the beginning of August. Sometimes they start earlier in the spring. So just y'all know your districts, but just kind of keep that in mind, because you have to open the dates up to make sure we're grabbing all of those documents from the very beginning, and then make sure we're leaving it plenty of time for your campus administrators to complete their summatives and get all of their I's dotted and T's crossed. So that is going to be your archiving process. And we also have great support articles hanging out for you in the online help guide that walk you through that process. But if you're like, oh my goodness, I really need some hand holding, reach out to your account manager, and myself or Paige can work with you on getting your system archived for the end of the year. And that is about it for the Strive show. I think I beat Jason on time. So, but if y'all have any questions, please reach out to us. We're so happy to help y'all. And you're not alone at all. So we just want to make the end of the year as perfect and wonderful as you roll into your summertime. So up next is passing my torch to Aware Premium.
Yes, and I will take over here as well. I am adding that district support needs link again in the chat so that if you have any questions or need to connect with us about anything that Jason and Allison have talked about, you can do that. And I want to just give a little sneak peek of Aware Premium. I know a lot of people on this call have already had experience with Aware Premium. So really it just helps if you haven't had it yet or have a chance to see it. If I gave a test in Aware, now what can I do? So Aware Premium allows you that deeper data analysis and helps draw conclusions about learning, help the students provide feedback, as well as some action planning steps for after the assessment. So if you go to the next slide, Armando, this is kind of the comparison of Aware versus Aware Premium and the different features that are found in both. So if you have additional questions about this, please connect with your account manager and we can help you. We also have a self-guided walkthrough links on the next slide that'll help you go through step by step just to explore it on your own. It's a very self-explanatory. It gives you step-by-step click points to see all of these different aspects of Aware Premium. And we are also offering a free district trial. If you would like to take advantage of that, you can connect with your account manager. We've got some webinars coming up and that self-guided walkthrough tool that we just shared. So this will take you to the link again once you get the presentation, but it's also the same link that's been shared several times in the chat. So Brittany and I look forward to hearing from you and helping to support you and any needs that you have with Aware Premium as well. So now I'm going to turn it over to Brittany to talk a little more about summer training.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Marie. Before we wrap up, we just wanted to highlight some of the training opportunities that Eduphoria offers. The first one is an asynchronous learning opportunity specifically for teachers, and we recommend this for new teachers specifically. If you have a group of new teachers that you are onboarding to your district, this is a really great resource. The teacher learning site, and there's a link in there that you will receive after the presentation. But this site provides digital learning content for Aware and Strive. The site was designed around Aware's new navigation, so that's another great thing about it. It's free for all Eduphoria users, and there are modules for each application, and each module has short videos, typically about 3 to 5 minutes, along with a link to the help section that covers that specific content, as well as a reflection question. So again, just another really great resource for your teachers. And that brings us to additional training support. The account managers do work closely with our training team. So if you ever have questions about your district's data usage, we are happy to look into that for you and pull a report for you or share some of that information. We can also set up a needs assessment meeting with our training team to really kind of figure out what your district's needs are and how we can support you with that. Typically, after we have a needs assessment meeting, we would follow up with a training proposal along with a quote. We do offer virtual training sessions as well as on-site training. So your account manager can send you all the details for those two options. And then sometimes a district may need a 30-minute consultation with one of our trainers. So we are happy to facilitate that as well. And again, there is a link to the district needs form that Marie mentioned earlier in the presentation. And I know that she did include that in the chat as well. So feel free to fill out that form if you have any questions, whether it's Aware Premium or training, or just a general question about your district's account. We're happy to support you and help you with that. Let me look in the chat, make sure we don't have any more questions. Okay, Marie, thank you for adding that teacher learning site link. Okay, perfect. Again, feel free to fill out that form. Your account manager will be following up with you, or you can just reach out to your account manager directly, whatever you prefer. But we appreciate your time today. We know this is a very, very busy time of year, and we are grateful for the opportunity to share this information with you and support your district. But we look forward to following up with you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.